強欲の魔女エキドナのことかいそれともそれらすべての魔女を滅ぼし自らの糧として世界を敵に回した嫉妬の魔女あの忌むべき彼女のことかいしまったな脅かしすぎてしまったようだ厄介なものだよ魔女のサガは。
Hello everybody, Megs.X here, back at it again to give y'all another very exciting video, and for today I'll be reviewing ReZero Episode 3 called The Long-Awaited Reunion. And if you haven't already done so, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner to check out my Episode 2 review if you so happen to miss it, and then bounce back over and watch this one though. But man, I gotta say, with this episode, we finally starting to get drip fed a little bit more of that lore that we know what ReZero is known for. And I'm like, yes, finally, because we got to see a little interaction with one character who, man, we've been hearing about all the time in the first season though. We finally get to see her debut here, and then we get to see like a crazy, I don't even know how to describe it, but oh gosh, this one dude literally came out there guns a-blazing on Subaru and stuff, and got to talk about a little bit about that. And then we finally get to see what Roswell's up to, and the reason why we hadn't seen him since he departed off within season 1, and we get to start to figure out and put 2 and 2 together on why he was basically stuck here in this new location, and we hadn't heard anything from him since though. So a lot of stuff to kind of go over and talk about though. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this episode review of ReZero Season 2. Within this episode, we got to meet 2 new characters from this series. One of them is a dude called Garfield. And no, I do not mean like Garfield the cat from the cartoon though. And this dude literally went out guns a-blazing and nearly almost beat Subaru and the rest of their crew half to death. And thank goodness Subaru mentioned that they knew that one girl that's now working at the Roswell's mansion, or else they all would have been toast. And this dude literally almost looks the same appearance, the same, blondish kind of hair, same jagged old teeth, and super energetic compared to the calm demeanor of the maid girl that we just recently saw in episode 2 though. But thank goodness Subaru was thinking off the top of his head, because you know what, he probably would have been beaten half to death, and return by death probably would have kicked in from the very get-go though. So at least he's spared for the moment though. And then the other important character that we got to see was Ekidena, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because the way how they've been saying that in Japanese, I'm like, I kind of want to hear the dub version and see how they actually pronounce that name though, because man, that one's I don't know, that one's a little weird twist off the tongue though. But Ekidena doesn't seem to be quite as malicious as the ominous cliffhanger from the last episode made her out to be, but definitely isn't someone to be trusted though, especially after lacing Subaru's teeth. At least she offers to explain all of the complex fantasy lore in this anime, which would have been really helpful to both Subaru and us as the viewer at this point. On reflection though, I am glad that Subaru, and by extension the author, show resistance here, wanting to push the plot forward rather than get too distracted with too much of the exposition. The series has a way of drip feeding its lore, which I think works a lot better in the long run. Also, it's just really funny to see Ekidena acting all put out when she didn't get to serve her expected role as the mysterious guide person. I have to say that the first scene in this episode made me inadvertently think of the tea time mechanic in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Yes, I got to throw a little bit of a gaming little reference up in here though. But Subaru was given the chance to ask a bunch of questions and then flubbed them all, and meaning that his charm did not actually manage to go up with her during that conversation. And I hope that he will, come back to redo that scene and score that perfect tea time. He'll probably will end up doing that eventually, and Ekidana strongly infers that he'll be back, and next time he'll want answers. Now, for all y'all Fire Emblem fans, you would have noticed all those little terms with perfect tea time, charm, and all that stuff. I just had to throw that up in there because I just found it so funny, the resemblance between all of that though. The most intriguing takeaway from this conversation is that Subaru appears to have inherited the sloth witch factor from killing Peltages. Now, if you can remember, in the last episode, Beatrice strongly implied that she knew Peltages before he got sucked into the witch's cult. She might have even, been fond of him or whatever though. But last season had various parallels between Subaru and Peltages too. Peltages was a dark mirror reflecting that Subaru could have become him if he had continued his downward spiral. It's starting to seem like the crazed Sin Archbishop is going to become a more nuanced and compelling villain in death rather than in life. Now, the rest of this episode is about the Sanctuary and Emilia. I got to be honest, I am not quite sold on the setup here. We're told that the Sanctuary is a place for half-bloods, and before I even go on with that, I'm like, who the heck called this place a sanctuary? Like, you had all these people living here though, and it was called a sanctuary though, but you had some people kind of living here as like hostages, and some people that aren't able to naturally leave the area due to the barrier from the witch, and I'm like, gosh darn. So knowing all of that, since Emilia is the only half-elf among the visitors there, she has the qualifications to undertake the trial to free all the remaining Arlon villagers that are resident there that Garfield is keeping hostage. So after a heartwarming pep talk with the villagers, Emilia goes to take the trial, only to collapse within literal seconds of entering the barrier. After all of her talk of proving herself and becoming a reliable person, she gets incapacitated in a completely anticlimactic manner without even a hint of her struggle being shown. And I'm like, what the actual heck? I'm like, Emilia's trying to do her best to try to be somebody that even Subaru can be able to trust in her, and that way she won't always have to be the one that's being protected from Subaru. Maybe she can, repay the debt and protect Subaru and, protect Subaru herself though. But the fact that she literally went in there, it literally wasn't even like 3 seconds long, and then she just passes out, and then Subaru has to rush in there and get it. I'm like, I understand the plot though, but I'm like, at least give the girl a bone or something, like give her something to work off of. But I'm like, oh gosh, I was just sort of kind of shaking my head during that moment though. So by the time it was said and done, she ended the last episode unconscious and ended this one in much of the same way. It gives Subaru the perfect excuse to jump in and attempt the trial himself, but I don't know. The abruptness doesn't have a good taste in my mouth. That's just my personal little opinion though. But as for Subaru's trial, this one is going to be fairly interesting to some level or degree. It's about confronting his past. So he wakes up in his home in Japan before he got transported to the other world. So far, Subaru's previous life has been almost completely unexplored, and we know that he was a shut-in, and he didn't, and he hated the person that he was, but not much more than that. So most isekai stories like these doesn't make the main character's previous life much of a focus beyond the broad strokes, and I expect the ReZero to be no different in this regard. So while it's interesting to see Subaru's family life get addressed, how this will play out and what overall importance will this trial serve for Subaru, we'll have to see how it all shakes up within the next episode though. And that's basically where the episode ends, and that's pretty much all my thoughts about this episode though. So y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all did you think about this episode as a whole? What do you think about Garfield and his crazy little out there sort of kind of nature, and the fact that he's actually holding all of these hostages like that because of the fact of the matter that only certain people are able to actually escape the barrier while other ones would naturally be trapped, so he's kind of holding them for ransom essentially though. So I don't know, I'm still short of kind of get a feel on his character though. And then what about Ekidana and the way how she kind of brought herself into the fold? We finally get to see her official debut. Besides just like a little brief showcasing from the last episode, this is the one that where it really counts though. And I don't know, I was expecting like a lot more of a scary tone from her, but she seemed like the more kind of, you know, laid back, sort of kind of teases with you though, but can get, you know, flip the switch and talk real serious with you though. So I mean, she sort of kind of like has that like mixed, you know, personality or whatever though. So I'm like, I can sort of kind of dig that. Kind of makes sense though. And then what do you think about Roswell actually coming back in the fold? We got to see Ram once again, and oh goodness, I don't know what these trials are gonna, you know, hold up for us though, but hopefully it's pretty cool. And I'm kind of curious to see, you know, exactly what was Subaru's life before he got brought into this other world though. But let me know what all you thought about this episode down in the comment section down below though. So if you really like this review, go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things ReZero Season 2 for this season though. But that about does it for my review, so make sure to tune in next week for my episode 4 review of ReZero Season 2. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.
よくわかんねえけど入れんなら願ったり叶ったりだ。そこにいてくれ。なんかあったら声を上げる。エミリアン。まずは己の過去と向き合え。